You remember that idea that Frieza had that he would bring down the divine system from within that didn't go anywhere? Well, now it's going to go somewhere. Hey folks, MasakoX here. Now this idea came about during a discussion I did a couple of weeks ago. You can check out said discussion up top about my topic concerning bait and switches within Dragon Ball Super. In essence, this story was all established from the notion that Frieza might have become a destroyer in the Tournament of Power, seeking a better deal than the one he had garnered from Goku in Universe 7, and in turn, being able to undermine the likes of Beerus and Whis, to which he had a personal history with. In the anime, nothing happened in regards to that thought experiment in episode 95, so now we enter a world where that did end up counting for something. As you could probably imagine, this story might not exactly lead to a happy ending, so I imagined this would be something that could be wrapped up relatively quickly. But either way, I think it's going to be fun, something I've really wanted to tackle for a long time, and something worth exploring for the purposes of picking up a forlorn plot thread and bringing about the Freeza of old that a lot of you out there were hankering for. So with that, let's set the scene. As you may be familiar with, Frieza had been sent back to his personal pit of despair down in Hiffle. He had thought he'd gotten out when Sorbet wished him back with the Dragon Balls, he was literally in pieces about it, but Goku had put him right back there not too long after. It was quite the surprise when the same monkey returned to this site, but this time with a proposition. Naturally, being the son of King Cold, the best bargainer in the galaxy, he liked to make a deal when there was something in it for him. So, like in the original, he agreed to the proposal that the Universe 7 team had laid out for him. He would fight for them on the condition that he would be brought back to life at the end of it with the Earth Dragon Balls before his 24-hour pass with Fortune Teller Barber would lapse. Goku had a plan and was willing to speak for everybody in Universe 7 to allow its most formidable tyrant to come back for some more. Smart move, Goku. When Goku had departed back to Earth to tell everybody, Frieza had not much time to think about this idea before his escort would arrive to take him to Earth. This was, to him, quite the fortuitous situation. He was thinking about it for a long time. He'd be able to be reunited properly with his crew, and hopefully, the likes of Goku and his precious band of merry men would leave him alone. At least for a while, but that's better than nothing. When he could maybe get his empire back on its feet, maybe see in detail what the damage Sorbet had done to it in the intervening years since his first passing. However, there was one thing that soured this experience for him. It kept coming back. Beerus. Beerus would still be there. No matter what power he would attain, the acts of rule he'd be able to wreak upon the galaxy, that blasted cat would always be there, watching him. And, if not him, then that toady of an attendant. Whatever he would end up doing in this third bite of the cherry of life, those two party poopers would be there to spoil the fun for him for centuries if he got too carried away. Where's the fun in that? If only there was a chance to supersede them. But the odds of Beerus retiring soon and appointing him as a replacement destroyer were next to nil, almost comical. Oh well, he thought. Anything was better than being stuck here under this tree for the rest of eternity. You gotta take what you can get. Fortune Teller Barber then arrived a short while later, and begrudgingly took Frieza back to the land of the living at her place in the desert. Goku was there to greet him, and their exchange from the anime, which still gives me a lot of chuckles to this day, plays out without any change. In fact, the next chain of events remains relatively the same, until the point where Frieza gets his hands on one of the communicators from a lead goon sent by Rowan Sidra. Things start off similarly in the lines of the bargaining that Frieza makes with them, whilst Goku is being consumed by the Hakai energy Frieza had stolen from Sidra. He vows not to tell Zeno about this plan to scupper Universe 7's actions before the tournament had even begun, maybe even perhaps switching sides. Rowan and Sidra are keen and yet not so keen about this happening. But they do remember that this isn't against the rules of the tournament to poach people from other universes. So this gets them thinking. Ro is adamant that they do not negotiate with this guy. He's clearly more trouble than he is worth, but Sidra, well, if you ask me, Sidra is a bit of a wet blanket of a destroyer. He doesn't really act like one, or I've not seen him act like one. He's probably the nicest one out of all of them, or at least the least likely to be ruthless when pressed. If pushed, he could destroy Freeza if he needed to. Not will, could. there is a difference there. There's a hint of doubt. The change then sparks when Sidra states that if Frieza comes with their remaining assassins right away, right this second, they can make it worth his while, that they might be able to defeat Goku fair and square in the upcoming tournament. The pair could tell there was some beef between them, based on the actions of Frieza just now to take out what is meant to be an ally. Now this is what you need to say to Frieza if you want him to do what you want. With an evil smirk, he clues as the communicator with a, "I shall let you know," and turns to Goku. "Frightfully sorry, monkey. Your offer was rather good, but it looks like you've been outbid. Sniped at the last second. Rotten luck. I do hope you've got another Pepsi for your squad. Ta-ta!" Frieza disappears with the remainder of the Universe 9 goons, leaving Goku to suffer a little more until Beerus and we show up to get him out of that particular sticky situation. Beerus looks around for Frieza, but Goku says that he had bailed on them, joining Universe 9 in the process. But neither Whis or Beerus were surprised. "I knew this idea of yours was a bust, Goku," said Beerus with the utmost of spite. Whis nodded. "This is classic Frieza, to be fair." "Oh well, got any other ideas? Preferably ones that don't involve recruiting psychopaths," grimaced the cat. Goku had to think fast, whilst also recovering from his injuries. Who else could they rely on? Who could they trust? Would the team he had already formed put up with this embarrassment? Would he lose more people because of it? Goku was very concerned at this point. Meanwhile, at Sidra's palace, an emperor had come to court. As you know, Frieza is quite charming and cordial when things are going his way, and right now, things were very much in his favour. He held all the cards here. By accepting his pitch, both these imbeciles were now in his pocket, he thought. He could ask for whatever he wanted, and he would get it without question, it seemed. From his conversations, Sidra to him looked like a toe rag, a coward of a destroyer. He had seen many of these people before when he was emperor. He would be a better fit for the position, he thought, Frieza, and in fact, yes, that's what he'll ask for. "I shall agree to whatever you wish for this contest, on 2 conditions," Rose scowled. "What exactly?" "I can tell that your universe is not nearly as prosperous or frugal as the one I was raised in. You'll need my help, clearly. I would be most grateful, as I aid to bring you to prominence, that I be brought back to life." He pointed to his halo. "This thing being removed post-haste. And secondly, I wish to be appointed the new destroyer around here." Sidra's eyes widened. "Me step aside? How could you be so bold as to say that to my face? You do know who you are talking to, right?" "Oh, I very much know. Who I am talking to is but a shadow of what a destroyer god should be. Face it, your realm is a joke. The mortals are struggling to survive. Barely anyone can function, and the power on display from what I've seen? Laughable. Those foxes the best you could come up with then?" Rose slammed his fist. "Don't you dare badmouth the trio de Danger!" "Cute name, but cute will not bring you glory. I can, and I will, if you make me your new god of destruction." Sidra frowned. He was right. Universe 9 was in a sorry state. Sidra had been quite lax in destroying planets, hoping that they would be able to turn themselves around on their own. However, he didn't fully understand what his job really was. He had to destroy. Ro had also been able to convince him that, he could take care of this for him. The destroyer didn't have to do that. He could make these work, bring the planets back up to snuff again, make them right, but Ro never did. He just didn't want the bother of making new worlds or observing others, doing much work. Just leave the planets to it, maybe hoping for the best, or if not, oh well. Whilst he lapped up the trappings of being a Kai. Well, all that had come back to bite him on the bum. In this state, they would surely lose and be erased. With Freeza at the helm though, maybe that might change. At maybe the cost of Rose's relaxed lifestyle, but hey, I guess that's better than not existing. In the end, Sidra agreed to stand down as destroyer on the proviso that Frieza take part for Universe 9 and he would at least ensure that their team would last the full 48 minutes. They probably wouldn't be able to win outright in terms of takedowns, but if they were protected to the best of Frieza's ability, then maybe they could win by sheer numbers. "I can do that," The simplest thing you need to do is stay out of mine and Universe 7's way. They are by far the most impressive squad out there. Goku has this effect on them, you know. They are like lambs following some moronic shepherd. Sidra then piped up.
Well, there's always Universe 11 as well. They have the Pride Troopers bolstering their ranks.
Pride Troopers? Reminds me of my old elite squadron back in the day. Well, we must be cautious around them, too. I can only do so much. I'm not indestructible, you know. At least not for now. The Universe 9 team was brought together, and under the command of Freeza as their captain, they made their way to the arena. Now, I won't go into too much detail about this, since the tournament isn't the main focal point of this What If, but needless to say, Frieza's plan mostly worked. It was certainly better than what they did in the original. It was tight, but Frieza was emboldened with his newfound power and ability to take down Universe 7's rank personally. He didn't have to tippy-toe around them. He'd instructed the other members of his new home to only focus on the lesser realms. They might stand a chance against them, whilst Frieza focused on the goody-goodies. That was much easier this time, since now those chumps were baying for blood. His blood in particular. They were distracted. He knew that the Saiyans would gun for him and him alone, and that was okay with him. He had a lot of bones with them to pick. All the while, he was able to take down the likes of Krillin, Tenshin Han and Roshi with little difficulty, and he also iced Piccolo in a little bit of spite, in a similar manner that he had done on Namek. Not killing him, but ensuring he wouldn't be getting back up anytime soon. This got the Zeno's interest, who got interested in Frieza. The GP said he was a last-minute transfer to Universe 9 from 7, and this interested the Zenos greatly, thinking this to be the utmost of twists, and so therefore, they were happy that Frieza was doing that. He got to do more cool stuff. More cool stuff he did indeed. Thanks to his plan, the Trio de Danger focused their efforts on Universe 10, whose muscles couldn't counter their power and Basil's wondrous calves. In the stands, Ro was stoked, whereas Sidra was reflective. He knew that at this rate, he was going to lose his job. What would happen to him? Would he suddenly age and die? Would he get to remain immortal and maybe just live a life of calm somewhere? Content? Oh, he didn't know for sure. It had been so long. But he definitely knew that this arrangement needed to work if they were to exist at all. But just then, Jiren woke up and, well, ensured that the plan didn't work to its intentions. Ultimately, Universe 9 did make it to the end, but it was just Frieza and Android 17 in the ring, when the time ran out, with Jiren having been knocked out by a joint attack from Goku and Vegeta this time around. How did it wind up getting decided? Well, Zeno liked Goku more, so he chose Universe 7 to win, because hey, that's Zeno! Frieza hurled profanities at his direction, being reminded about his earlier resentment for the heavenly beings, his old cause. If only he got his way, he could bring them down, or bend them to his whim. Ro and Sidra panicked, thinking they were about to be erased. But fortunately for them, 17 really liked boats, so he wished for every universe to be restored, to which the GP was impressed. That was the test. If any other wish had been asked for, it found out, all universes would have been erased, including the winning universe. Ro and Sidra breathed a sigh of relief. When the tournament was wrapping up, Goku and Frieza finally saw each other out of battle, and looked sternly at one another. Still regretting your boneheaded move, monkey? No, said Goku seriously. You've only got a few hours left before Baba's spell pulls you back into hell. Oh, I think you'll find that won't be occurring. Mojito, darling, do what you have to do. Mojito bowed and floated over to Frieza, bonked him on the head and bestowing life upon him. Sidra was horrified.
Mojito! What is the meaning of this? You are supposed to only take orders from me!
Mojito shrugged.
What can I say? Frieza here excelled himself. Without his inclusion, we would have been the first ones out. No doubt about it.
He gave Sidra a knowing look, and Sidra sighed. Goku was terrified. Frieza was now fully revived, and his leverage to the tyrant was gone. He now hadn't a clue about what he was going to do in the intervening time. But it couldn't be good. It wouldn't be good. The last glimpse he saw of Frieza was Ro teleporting them to Universe 9, back to their home, and with that, the Saiyan looked frightfully worried. But Beerus, he brushed this aside.
Oh, relax. At least it's no longer our problem. Let Sidra and Ro deal with that hot mess as far as I'm concerned. Now we don't have to look at his ugly mug for the rest of time.
In Universe 9, talks were being held. Sidra was reluctant to give Frieza his role, but Frieza was the master negotiator here, a skill he had from his father, and he was able to run rings around the deity. Ro was getting very scared, the seriousness really coming to the fore. Sidra had no backbone at all in this discussion, and it looked very much like that he himself was going to have to pull his trousers up and do actual work for once. But Frieza had done what he set out to do, ensure Universe 9 survived. They hadn't been erased, and so in Frieza's eyes, he had fulfilled his end in the deal. But could they actually go through with it? Well, technically they could. Toppo from Universe 11 was a candidate for the Destroyer position coming up, but so maybe you could make Frieza a candidate for the role and he'd get it eventually, but that would require training. Something of which Frieza was a newcomer toward. Train. I thought you would give me this role right at this second. This wasn't part of the deal.
I know, but it's the only way that we can grant you this post.
How long for, then? Sidra shrugged.
How long is a piece of string?
The training, though, was nowhere near as arduous as he had thought. Thanks to his new true golden powers, this was easy. He had the groundwork already mastered. He had demonstrated on Earth and in his training that he could manipulate and handle her Kai energy when given to him with little injury, or barely any, which meant the potential was there. Then, of course, there is the Frieza clan's remarkable improvement potential. 4 months got him gold, so this... Well, after as little as just 8 weeks of training, Frieza was knocking on the door of this newfound power. He could feel it in his veins. He could feel his golden power becoming less and less of a burden, much more sustainable. He could actually be in it casually these days. The final test was nigh. Sidra and he would fight for the position of Universe 9's destroyer. The battle was intense. Sidra, despite his less malevolent nature, had copious amounts of experience. He was able to keep one hand above his rival, but as the fight wore on, the past weeks crept back up into his mind. There's that doubt again. Despite their worries, Frieza turned out not to be nearly as psychotic as they had feared. In his studies, Frieza had begun to understand what the role of a destroyer was really about. He got to blow up planets, but it was all for a good cause, making an ideal universe, just like an empire. He seemed much more capable of doing this than he, and so, with much consideration, Sidra deliberately fumbled and allowed Frieza to win their battle. Are you sure that might have been a good idea? Because, Frieza's a little trickster. So, on the conditions of the rules for deities, Sidra was now able to bestow the power of the Destroyer onto Frieza. The ceremony wasn't grand nor public, but the change in power and demeanor was immense. Since Frieza had little in terms of obligations and things that tied him to a mortal life, the things he had lost or would be forever lost to him were minimal. As a result, his core personality was relatively intact. He had been granted the traditional robes of the Destroyer God, and as for Sidra, his powers had now been diminished to a more suitable role for a former deity. He didn't die immediately. Frieza felt mighty. He had been granted this power. He now knew the ins and outs of how to govern as one, and these were the things he needed to ultimately bring them down, or better yet, mold them into his own image. And that prize was a very enticing one to clamour for indeed. It had been a few days since Frieza was initiated into the role of Universe 9's destroyer. Sidra had stuck around a bit to ensure that his candidate had seen everything there was to know, understood everything that was expected of him. And Ro? Well, Ro was bracing himself for what was about to head in his direction, and it weren't going to be good. When Sidra's time was up and he had to head back to the mortal realm, he requested but one thing from Frieza. With Frieza feeling frisky, he granted audience.
Frieza, whatever you do, please ensure that at least this universe is well looked after. Something I was obviously not able to do. Can you promise me that?
I assure you. I have great plans for this wasteland of a world. The specifics now, since you're no longer a god, need not concern you. Sidra looked concerned. Was that a yes? In any case, Frieza brushed him aside and began to attend to his duties, with Sidra now set for his original homeworld. To see what was left of it, Ro longed for the simpler times of being with Sidra. As far as he was concerned, he was having to deal with a far more thorough individual. But this is Frieza. For him, the initial thrill of the job was destroying things. He got to blow up worlds without consequence, ones that were unnecessary, not worth his time. And he loved watching the occupiers of these worlds cower and beg for mercy after having it their way for so long. They had gotten lucky with Sidra being a soft touch, being rather understanding with their lot in life, them pretty much taking him for a chump. There was this one world, a dust bowl named Tirana, which was the largest in the central galaxy of Universe 9. It had been left to squalor for centuries, but the one thing that had kept it around for so long was the fact that Sidra noted that the mortals heavily relied on its natural resources, which had been gutted from the planet itself, stored in warehouses, and constantly being shipped out to different parts of the galaxy and beyond, sustaining everything else. The King of Tirana was able to strong-arm Sidra, and this made him feel invincible. He was able to manipulate the gods. Well, not this one, mate. On first encounter, the king was reckoning that this Lord Freeza would be just as much of a pushover. But that thought lasted for all of 2 seconds. Frieza could clearly tell those who were being too smart for their own good, or too pompous for their own good. This naturally resulting in a horrendous armlock which brought the royal court of Tirana to a screeching halt. Frieza immediately understood the situation and gave the king an ultimatum. Either you pull up your socks and start sustaining your own world first, or you might find yourself in a world of pain, or without a world entirely. I am not like my predecessor, you see. You will not rest until you bend to my whim. I have the power to bring your little game of Monopoly to an abrupt end. Are we clear on that? The king meekly nodded, and with that, Frieza left him to it. But this is Frieza we're talking about. Once he had left the planet with Mojito in tow, he blew up Tirana without so much as a flinch. Mojito was amazed, and also a little perplexed.
Lord Frieza, why did you annihilate this world? It's going to cause problems with the galactic economy. Surely you would sense that.
It's a message, my friend. A message to worlds that they had better not rely on goodwill and forgiveness from myself. If I were to do this to a lesser world, it wouldn't have had the same, impact, as you would say. Mojito nodded and understood. This guy, he was one of action. Very impressive. Mojito liked Frieza a lot. In time, Frieza's plan worked splendidly. This took Frieza aback, actually. That one action was all that it took for other worlds to start consolidating on their realms. But that didn't mean all of them were spared from Frieza's wrath. There were many planets that were far too past the point of saving or looking the other way, and as such, Frieza erased them from existence to Ro's substantial chagrin.
Frieza! You can't just go about and destroy planets like this! Have you not considered the ramifications?
Frieza didn't seem all that fussed. I have, and I'm afraid that this means that you will have to see to it that these worlds are either replaced with better ones, or that other worlds on the brink need not have to meet such a gruesome end. Surely this is something you are capable of doing, or do I have to erase you too? Mojito looked pensive, but Ro looked triumphant.
Ah, Lord Frieza! You forget! That is impossible!
Oh? Enlighten me! However, if you mean that it is impossible for me to do such a thing, fear not. I have destroyed countless people in my time before, without regret, so this shall be no different.
The bond between you and I, something that Sidra neglected to tell you clearly during training. If you kill me, then you die too. The string that binds us together, if broken, will do nothing but bring the entire universe to total expiration.
Frieza stopped and turned to Mojito.
What? Is this true?
The angel sadly nodded.
I am afraid it is, my lord. That is the whim of the angelic code. The Supreme Kai and Destroyer are intrinsically connected. A life link. You cannot destroy your way out of this situation. Sadly.
He looked pained, as if he would have also welcomed the end of Ro, but Ro was jubilant.
You are stuck with me, and if you want me to play ball,
Then you had better start treating me more nicely than you have done recently.
Frieza cursed under his breath, but Mojito had a plan. One day, when Frieza chose to relax in the palace of the Destroyer, Mojito requested to visit his father, the GP, to which Frieza saw no trouble with. Where Mojito went was indeed to the home of the two Zenos, and to meet the Grand Priest. In his time, he explained to him that Frieza had been an excellent destroyer and understood the job much better than Sidra had ever done. Granted, he was enjoying the job a little more than was necessary, a bit over-enthusiastic, but the GP brushed this aside without concern. Beerus is much more reckless, so to me, Frieza's not a problem. If Frieza can improve your mortal level, then that is all that matters. Speaking of mortal levels, I fear that Lord Frieza's actions may be hampered by my Supreme Kai. How is that, my son? Mojito then explained, with certain embellishments about what Ro had been up to and was intending to do, using his life link as a power play against Frieza. And the GP did not like this one bit and vowed to fix this. Days later, Ro suddenly disappeared. He was nowhere to be seen. He had failed to come to meetings with Frieza, and when asked, Mojito simply shrugged. I cannot fathom where he's gotten off to, my lord. But not long after that, it became clear to all. Ro had been erased. This got Frieza scared. Why would this happen? How did it happen? Surely this couldn't be. He should surely be dead by now, the lifelink and everything. Not so. Mojito then introduced somebody, a Shinjin named Wakai, a purple-skinned individual who was more than happy to serve Frieza. It is an honor to be your ally in your endeavors, Frieza. Wakai here is our new Supreme Kai. He has shown potential for thousands of years, but Ro failed to promote him to save his own skin. Ro liked his job too much, and chose to pass over many different appointees. Luckily for us, Wakai here is in the right place at the right time. He has now got the chance to prove himself. Will you aid Frieza's plan for our universe, Wakai? He bowed. Frieza liked that. Very good, Wakai. What I would like you to do is to bring this sorry excuse of the universe into some working order. Carry out my mission. Can you do that for me? Yes, my lord. I have many exciting plans for it. Ooh, I like exciting. Then go forth and do what you must. And with that, Wakai was sent off to enact his vision. And that vision was very pleasing to Frieza. However, this was not something that you could do overnight. Again, Universe 9 wasn't rebuilt in a day. This took hundreds of years to bear real fruit. But thanks to the fact that Frieza was now immortal, this didn't matter. He was now satisfied in the knowledge that, with this position, he would outlast those blasted Saiyans, and so therefore, they would now never be able to get in his way or use their precious cat to do their dirty work for them. They were now in the other world, as well as most of their descendants. Why would they be concerned with Universe 7 anymore? Their concern with it was naught. The GP had noticed that Universe 9's mortal level had been rapidly increasing, now no longer at the bottom, and had now reached 6th position, all thanks to the erasure of the huge amount of dead worlds that had been cluttering it up. This was what was needed, and Wakai had been excelling himself. With the likes of he, Mojito, and Frieza, Universe 9 was now becoming a real example of how to run an efficient place for life to exist, albeit with a little bit of fear. This was just another empire for Frieza to govern, and with unlimited time to do so, to him this was a walk in the space park. With more time came even more success. The GP was now looking to Frieza as his prime example of a destroyer, and the way that he and Wakai were running Universe 9 was excellent. This actually gave the likes of Universe 1 and 5 a little concern. They had been the best run realms for millions of years, and now here comes Universe 9 invading their perches and threatening to topple them off. Universe 9 had now become the 4th highest in terms of mortal level, and when Zeno's itch for a tournament of power came about, something he remembered from his old friend Goku, Universe 9 had now gone from last to now being exempt from competition. Frieza could watch on this contest
safe in the knowledge that he could gloat about how Beerus and his brother Champa were now still clamoring for their lives. They had done nothing to get out of the bottom rungs of the ladder. Without the Dragon Team anymore, and Goku's charge and influence, Universe 7 was erased early on. But the realms could breathe a sigh of relief still at the end of it, when the wish to restore the previously erased universes was granted, history repeating itself, as it often does. Thankfully. This was the first time that Beerus and Frieza had met since the betrayal, and this was the perfect chance for Frieza to gloat. "Having trouble there, kitty cat? Sad not to have your monkeys around to make you look good?" Beerus scowled without saying a word. "Greetings, Frieza. I've heard good things about your realm," Whis said with genuine praise, Mahito nodding. But the cat hissed and chastised its angel for siding with his former underling.
What are you trying to prove, Frieza? So you saved your universe from death, hallelujah. What's left to do?
Oh, trust me. It'll all become clear in time. Hopefully you'll be around to witness it. And with that, Frieza just walked away, with Beerus left to stew on those words, not having a clue as to what they meant. It would become clear though, but not in the way that Frieza would expect. More time passed, tens of thousands of years. Usurping the top spot from Universe 1 was no easy task, but Kai, now a strongly built Supreme Kai with benevolence as a watchword, because Frieza liked people doing good so he didn't care, he had created lush worlds with life flourishing. Frieza let him do this as it was working miracles and making his job much easier, proving to the higher-ups that what he was achieving, in a relatively short space of time, was how things should be run. Planets didn't want to be destroyed, and so they kept corruption and disorder down to a minimum. But even then, this is Frieza we're talking about. He would still blow up the odd world, just to keep them honest. He was genuinely enjoying this game, and this enthusiasm and gusto was being observed by the GP. If only all the universes could be like Frieza's at this moment. In fact, this was something that he took to heart, and something he decided to bring up to Zeno. Can you imagine how that went? The two Zenos barely paid attention to what their chief angel had to say, merely stating, "Oh, okay then, erase the other universes." The GP was a little startled to hear this. Are you sure, Your Majesty? That is rather drastic." The future Zeno looked to him with dead eyes. "You're interrupting our game. Go away." "As you were, my lords." So the GP did what the two Zenos had commanded, and promptly erased the 11 other universes with Zeno's help, leaving only Universe 9 in existence. "Lord Frieza, something unusual is happening. My father is coming here to visit to explain." "That's unusual. Why would he..." But before Frieza could finish his sentence, the GP appeared before them. "Good afternoon, Frieza. I have interesting news for you and my son." He then explained what had happened in Zeno's commands. Frieza was left dumbstruck, but internally jubilant. He, without knowing, had done it. He had gotten his own back on Beerus, and sent him to his doom, just like what he had promised himself that he would do. Now he alone was in existence, the sole destroyer left in it, and Mahito, his precious and loyal Mahito, had said the right words in doing so. But now what? This plan was never expected to work so well and so quickly. But then Frieza saw an opening, as he so often does. "Forgive me, my liege," he could barely say this with a straight face, "but how could the Omni King do such a reckless act? This is clearly not good governance." The GP looked to him with an honest expression. "I agree, but that's just how things are." "Surely there's another way," Mahito cottoned on. "Perhaps Lord Frieza might be a suitable fit, father." The GP looked quizzically at his own son, and back to Frieza. "Out of the question. How could a mortal run the entire Omniverse?" "But you forget." Frieza stretched his arms out. "I am not a mortal. At least not anymore. I am a heavenly being like yourself in some capacity. You've seen how I've turned things around here. We could perhaps start again. All the universes erased by your king could be brought back, shaped in a similar image to this one. Isn't that what you would want out of life? A place ruled by logic and order, rather than one led by chaos and childish impulses?" The GP thought about this for a moment. and thanked Frieza for his time before leaving. Back at the home of the Zenos, the guards of theirs hadn't turned up for their duties, but they didn't care. They were playing. The GP then entered and informed the Zenos, in his expert way of knowing them, that they could stop doing what they were doing and go out to play.
Play? We're playing right now.
Ah yes, that is true, my liege, but wouldn't you like to play for eternity, without me getting in the way? The future Zeno nodded.
I would like that. Let's go. This is boring.
I can fix that for you. Take my hand, you two. I'll take you to your new home, where you can play for the rest of time without ever being interrupted again. The Zenos did so, failing to notice their erasure powers being removed from them when they took the GP's hands, and they were then taken to their new home. Out of sight, out of mind. Not long after, Frieza was told to go to the central core on the magical jellyfish of everything. The GP had summoned him and informed him that the Zenos had mysteriously abdicated, choosing a life of play rather than ruling. The GP asked for Frieza's hand. I believe that we could make something truly remarkable, you and I. Frieza was floored. He didn't expect this to be so easy. Are you sure? Surely my past would have affected your decision. Ah, yes, true. Your mortal life wasn't the best example of moral character. But that is a mere snapshot of the things you have done since then. You have proven yourself. So now, it is your turn, my king. King? Ooh, that was good. With that, Frieza took the GP's hand, and he felt a surge of power coursing through him. He was now the king of everything. He, King Frieza. Oh, that was good. Mojito bowed, and Wakai looked on in awe. After that, Frieza and the GP got to work. And instead of erasing further worlds, he and the GP set about making 11 new universes, each different from their previous outing, and from there, they built them from Universe 9's template. Here, Frieza had gotten what he truly wanted, to bring down the state of rule of the current Omniverse from within that had frustrated him, show Beerus up, and now he could show how reality should be run. He would be fair, but tough, like his father, ruling with logic and a mild sense of fear, instead of pure chaos like he did around the time of Planet Vegeta's destruction. He himself said, gods should be feared. And that's where we end things. So what did you folks think? Did you find Frieza's path to power interesting? Did it make sense to you how he could get under the angel's skin like this? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I will see you in the next video. Catch you later!